Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Sofia Yasmin. I'm a lecturer in accounting here at the Alliance Manchester Business School. I'm also a Programme Director for MSc Accounting. Today I'll be taking you through a quick taster session really about how we use research-informed teaching on our programmes on the MSc. Specifically, I'll be going through one of the courses that we teach on our MSc in Accounting. So I hope you find this interesting. Now, the MSc Accounting is a specialist accounting program which focuses on helping you develop an advanced knowledge of accounting theory and practice. We hope that this course will give you a really good introduction to different aspects of accounting research and help you, give you some guidance on how you conduct research. You'll advance your thinking and debate skills in issues such as financial reporting, management accounting, auditing, and corporate governance. And we hope that you will take the opportunity to benefit from our accounting academics' close connections with the accountancy profession. So the course will hopefully ultimately lead to either a leading role in the accountancy profession or it could help you take the first steps into the world of academia if you want to go down the route of a PhD, for example. So let me give you a bit of a taster on from one of our courses on how we use research to inform our teaching. So before I do that, what is research-informed teaching? Now, this could be construed in lots of different ways. You could say it's where courses use the latest research findings to teach you about cutting-edge issues in accounting. You could say this is about learning how to conduct research, or you could say it's about it's learning from research itself. Now, our courses, all of our courses, engage with research in all of these different ways. And it's because we have, I would say, a world-leading faculty in accounting research. If you've checked our rankings, the Manchester Accounting and Finance Group, which provides teaching for the MSc Accounting, is actually ranked 21st in the world for accounting and finance research, according to the latest QS World rankings. So all of the modules are taught by leading experts in their field. So they teach basically the things that they're passionate about. And that really comes across in our teaching. And it comes across in the kind of courses that we've developed. And you can really see that our courses are unique, I would say. So we're really lucky here in Manchester Business School that we have really a faculty of world-leading experts in the field of accounting research. And so all of our teaching is heavily research-led, and I would say it sits on the cutting edge of accounting scholarship. So let me go through then one of our modules, just to give you a taster really, and this is by no means, the whole teaching experience, so just a flavour. Now, the interdisciplinary perspectives on accounting module was specifically designed to give students a broad perspective on the role of accounting in organisations and society. And we introduce you to what we term interdisciplinary accounting research. Now, this is a different way of looking at accounting. And we kind of try to broaden students' thinking around what accounting is. So the course, it examines theories, approaches, and perspectives on different types of what we call interdisciplinary accounting research. We provide a critical review and analysis of mainstream accounting, and we really want you to understand how what we call interdisciplinary accounting research came about. Now, the term interdisciplinary basically means combining disciplines. So when we talk about interdisciplinary accounting research, we're talking about accounting borrowing from different disciplines. So you might have elements of social sciences within this, psychology within this. So basically different disciplines informing accounting research. So within this course, we kind of split it roughly into two parts. The first part of the course helps students familiarize themselves with the different paradigms of contemporary accounting research and the theories that really dominate interdisciplinary accounting research. And then in the second part of the course, we look at specific topics or specific themes within the accounting, interdisciplinary accounting research body of literature. So this module itself, you could say, is entirely research informed, because each lecture is developed around a particular research paper. Students are expected to read that research paper and then come fully informed, ready to really talk about whatever's interested them around things that have, and any questions that have arisen from reading the paper. And then we provide students with additional reading around the topic being discussed. So some of the topics that we teach on this course have included and can include looking at interpretive and what we call critical approaches to accounting research. And this is a growing body of research within the accounting domain, where scholars take a critical look at conventional accounting thinking to see if we can advance not only research, but how society views accounting in different areas. Social and environmental accounting is a form of interdisciplinary accounting. So we've got topics looking at social and environmental accounting. We have topics looking at the regulation of the accounting profession, which is a really important topical area to consider these days. We've also got topics that look at accounting for the public interest, which I will go on and look at in today's session. And you also have topics that take a more broader look at accounting. We have topics which look at accounting and globalization. So we consider the effect that globalization has had on accounting, and vice versa, the effect that accounting has on globalization. We're a much smaller world now than we were perhaps a few decades ago, and accounting has changed as a result. So we consider how it's changed and what the impact of that has been on different accounting technologies. And we look at this notion of development politics and how accounting and accountability feed into this. So notions of accountability are really, really important for businesses, but also for non-business entities. So in this topic, we consider what the accounting research says about accountability, what the accounting research says about development politics, and then how these two different domains, if you like, meet, and how we can learn from this, and how we can perhaps move accounting forward. So a really varied agenda, but all linked together by the notion that it's all cutting edge research in this area that you're learning about. And at the same time, you're enhancing your debating skills, you're enhancing your critical thinking skills, and you're learning how to read academic papers, you're learning how to critique academic papers, and you're learning how to present academic papers. So it's all about using research to inform our teaching, to make you as students not more knowledgeable, but have a deeper understanding of the issues underlying accounting. So let's just move on. Okay, so now let's focus on one of these topics. And what we look at now is how accounting works for the public interest. Now, this is one of the topics that we teach on this course, And I'll give you a flavour of the kind of things that we discuss and what are the key debates in this area. Now, let's look at this slide. Some of these names may be familiar to you, others not so, because they're very British-centric. So BHS was another name for British Home Stores. It was a company that was a retail company that collapsed a few years ago. Tesco's is a big supermarket chain here in the UK. And there's something that all of these companies have in common. Ignoring obviously the middle picture, but all of those, BHS, Tesco, Maxwell, Enron, WorldCom, have all been caught up in some sort of corporate collapse or accounting scandal in the past couple of decades. And all of these have, in one way or another, been linked to the top 4, top 5, or top 6, whatever they were at that time, accounting bodies, or accounting firms, sorry. Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte. If you've heard of Arthur Andersen, it was a big auditing firm which existed a couple of decades ago that was linked to the Enron scandal. So when we talk about accounting for the public interest, you can't not think about how accounting firms have behaved when it comes to how businesses operate or how businesses have collapsed in recent years. And this is therefore one of the things that has been an ongoing concern in accounting research. What is it when we say that accounting should be working in the public interest or for the public interest? I mean, some people would even argue, is there a need for accountants to work in the public interest? Is it the role of accountants to be looking at what the public want, or should they just be going in, preparing the financial reports, doing the audit as required by law, and that's it? So this is some of the things that we consider, or we take as a starting point for when we consider what is accounting for the public interest. So within this lecture, what we do is we start off with this big question. What does it mean when the accounting profession states that it's working in the public interest? And is it? And how do we do this? Well, first of all, we unpack the concept of what public interest is. And we do this from various theoretical perspectives. So we begin the lecture by looking at what different accounting research has said about what is public interest. And we begin with the really early developments on public interest from researchers that have looked at it from a very individual perspective. So that talk about public interest from the purpose of moral decision making. So it's all about ethics and how the individual must behave. And we go on and we look at then the more recent literature, which looks at public interest from a more organizational perspective, and research which suggests actually it's not an individual matter, it's more organizational, because individuals work within the wider context of organizations. So we start bringing in sociological theories and we look at how or what sociological research says about working in the public interest. And we move then to much more present day and we look at critical theory and what critical accounting says about how organizations or the profession must work in the public interest. So we start this lecture by looking at the underpinnings of public interest. And then we go on, after we've unpacked the notions, and one thing that we come up with and that students try to unpick and understand is that it's such a complex term, this notion of public interest, because one of the things that you consider is, well, who's the public? Which public are we talking about? Is public your normal, everyday person on the street? Or is it the people that have a vested interest in how accountants and auditors work? Or is it the people that are regulating the accountants and auditors? So it's a really interesting debate that we have around this point, looking through what theory says, but then what actually is it? And we come to the conclusion that there is actually no one definition of public interest. We then go on to look at two particular things. So we look at then what the profession says about the accountant's role in the public interest. In particular, we take a case study of the International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, and we contrast this with what real life tells us about the accountant's role in the public interest and what's been happening. Throughout this process, we look at what research is saying, and we try to come to a conclusion, really, whether accounting is working in the public interest. And it's a really interesting debate, because you have people on some sides of the argument who say, well, accountants should just be doing the job that they're doing, and that's good enough. Whereas on the other hand, you have people who actually strongly believe that accounting is there to provide a societal benefit. So it's really getting students to think about these deeper meanings about what is accounting in the public interest. So what does IFAC say? Well, some research suggests that IFAC believe that public interest is a derived rather than a direct term. So for IFAC, if accountants are providing the services that they are, and they're doing them effectively within the bounds of their own regulatory codes, then they are working in the public interest. And this links back to the notions of market economics and the fact that accounting is there to provide a service to market economy. Financial statements act as a lubricant to market economics, because financial statements are there to provide information to investors, to the market, information that they wouldn't otherwise have, and in doing so they provide a more transparent view of what the company is doing. And this is the role that accountants play. They help that lubrication process. So from the purpose, or from the view of IFAC, the accountant's view, if you like, is that the public interest, or the accountant, is part of a process. If the accountant is effectively able to service his or her client, then they're providing a public service. It's all about the provision of accounting and auditing services. As long as you are providing effective accounting and auditing services, whatever effective means, then you are working in the public interest. Now, some researchers have found that to be a perfectly acceptable view, and state, this is the whole purpose of accounting. Why do you need accounting? You have accounting, or you have people who prepare financial statements, and then auditors that come in and audit those financial statements, because you are trying to provide assurance to your shareholders that the managers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The classic agency theory perspective of accounting. So managers are they manage the company on behalf of the owners. The owners are the shareholders, but because the shareholders are not involved in the day-to-day running of the company, they need to know what's been going on, and that's where accounting comes in. And auditors come in to provide an assurance that the financial statements are true and fair. Now, when we go on in the lecture, we consider what then real life tells us. Now, this is the theoretical view, if you like. So what's actually been going on in real life? Is this what's been happening? And in the lecture, we consider the role of Carillion. Now, Carillion, if you're not aware, was the UK's second largest construction company. It collapsed in late 2017 under a whopping £1.5 billion worth of debt. It provided public services, so it was a private company that was contracted to provide services for the public sector. And as you can see in that picture, it did lots of things across a wide variety of different sectors. When it collapsed, there was a huge outpouring of, outrage really. How did this happen? £1.5 billion of debt. The auditors not realise this was happening. So what went wrong? When the company collapsed, obviously, like I said, there was a huge outpouring of outrage, and there were a number of reports that were issued at high government level in the UK. One of these reports that looked at, in particular, KPMG's failures as the accounting firm who was auditing Carillion, found that the failures were not isolated, but they were symptomatic of a much wider concern in the market, where this government report suggested that the big four firms were failing the wider economy. And I thought this was a really good quote that I picked up from this report. It said that within this particular case of Carillion, all of the big four had some part to play: KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, and EY. So specifically, like I said, KPMG were the auditors, Deloitte were the internal auditors, Ernst & Young were brought in when issues started to be felt early on, so they were brought in to provide some advice, which they didn't do very effectively. And after its collapse, PwC were brought in as special advisors to see what went wrong. And as a result of the really damning report that came out, the Competition and Markets Authority here in the UK suggested the breakup of the big four accountancy firms, which has then been taken up by the regulator, and it's now in the process of being looked at as to how this can be done. So you've got, on one hand, the accounting bodies saying public interest is a derived benefit, and it's derived by accountants and auditors, providing accounting and auditing services through the provision of these accounting and auditing services. But then on the other hand, you can see that whilst these firms are providing accounting or auditing services, it's having a knock-on effect on society. It's not really benefiting the public in any way. I mean, with the collapse of Carillion, millions of people lost their jobs, millions of people were affected. So when researchers looked at this, the research says, well, you know what, that's not really what accounting for the public interest is. And this quote by Mintz I thought was really interesting. Mintz says that the accounting profession, through its provision of auditing and standard setting, is actually a part of the regulatory framework. It's not just a case that they provide a service, they're actually part of the justice system of the society. And so you can't take a passive role and say we're providing a derived benefit. It's an indirect benefit, We're not actually going to engage in providing a public service. We're not actually going to look at this in terms of what society wants. For Mintz, accountants are the public's eyes and ears within many of these private and public organisations, because no other firm or no other profession gets to see what's going on inside an organisation like an accountant is. So for Mintz, for a profession to say, like accounting, to say that it serves the public interest, then it needs to report on all that it sees and it hears. Most crucially, if it says that it's working in the public interest, which all of the accounting bodies say they are doing, then they need to actually work for the interests of the public, not merely say that they do this as a derived benefit. So that's the kind of conclusion, if you like, that we reach towards the end of the lecture. So, I mean, that was a really fast and brief overview of just one topic that we consider on this particular module. I hope I've done it justice, but as you can see, it's a much more deeper, critical look at some of the key issues that are facing our society and accounting today. So within our MSCs, not only do you get to learn about the mainstream, if you like, views of accounting. So you learn management accounting and corporate reporting, and you'll be given a flavour of auditing, but we take you into a much more in-depth journey, really looking at the contexts behind these different topics, the underlying currents running through these topical issues that are happening in the world. So it is really a unique experience. I hope you've enjoyed this very brief taster session. Thank you very much.